All right, so we all start somewhere as photographers, and I have to remind myself of this because today I have to look back at my first few weddings and my first images as a photographer versus now. And I do this because one, it was requested. I think you guys just love to embarrass me. But two, I think it's huge for anybody to be able to see that we literally all started at the bottom. We had no idea what we were doing. And even someone like me who might be shooting weddings for years and years and years had some pretty doozy, cringeworthy pictures in the beginning. And so I have my laptop. I've pulled up a couple of blog posts that I've archived a long time ago. And so I'm going to be looking at these and just sharing a couple of my thoughts, and then I'll share them here on the screen as well. I hope that this is interesting for you. This is my first versus my current wedding photographs. Okay, so I went back in the archives. This is a post from years and years ago. I think this is 2013. Okay. And this was one of the first weddings that I ever photographed. Not only that, but it wasn't even my wedding. I second shot for a friend, and she had heard that I wanted to become a photographer, a wedding photographer. And she reached out to me and was like, hey, I have this couple getting married, super last minute, and I would love to have you come work for me. I think she paid me like $100, and it was an amazing day. And these are the images from that wedding. And so you'll see that it was just, it was the beginnings of Joy Michelle photography. Like, I was doing my best to cover the day, to pose when I could. The editing is completely inconsistent in terms of exposure and white balance and stuff like that. But there was some potential here. Like, I can tell that, I was trying with the ring shots and the cake shots and the couples portraits, guys. These were my front page of my website at one point. I was so proud of them. And I mean, these were the images that ended up getting me booked for my first weddings. And it's not a bad bouquet shot, when you really think about it. The posing is just, it's not where it could have been. And the angles are a little much, and grandma dancing at the end. But it's so crazy to look back and see this. And I now see that, I wasn't as aware of the backgrounds, being distracting, or how to pose the clients, or how to make people feel comfortable in front of the camera. But these were the images that started my portfolio. So they're just so crazy to look back on. The next wedding I have to show you here is another wedding where I was a second shooter. And I don't even know where to start. I mean, some of the macro shots are half decent. Some of the poses are interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I was working on my editing. I was experimenting. If you didn't at one point photograph a couple on a train track, come on, what were you doing, right? Oh man, I don't have any words, guys. This is just bad. So skipping ahead to my first wedding where I was the primary. And you can actually see that there's a pretty significant amount of growth. I think I invested in a couple of new lenses, and I had a newer camera body. So my camera body for those first two weddings where I was a second shooter was the Nikon D80. And I think I might have had a 50 millimeter and a pop-up flash. Whereas for this wedding, I specifically remember I used off-camera flash. I was pulling out all stops, trying to be a professional, and I had really invested in my gear. I think I might have rented some stuff too. So the images are actually a step above what you were just seeing. And I feel like that is just so interesting to look at. I mean, we have some extreme angles, some interesting poses, but you can see the beginnings of what becomes my style as Joy Michelle photography. The bridal portraits were really beautiful. They did a first look. It was truly, this was my first wedding of my own, but it was the first wedding where I felt when you're taking pictures and you're oh my gosh, I'm building my portfolio. It's happening. I'm so excited to put these on my website. This is going to be huge. That's how I felt during this wedding. It was it felt like my big break, honestly. And these images, from the ceremony, but mostly here, let me skip ahead. These bubble exit pictures if you were a Joy Michelle photography fan in 2013, this is what you saw on my website. And these were the best images I had ever taken in my life. Like, the stars had just aligned. The lighting was very forgiving. As you can tell, we're in open shade. There were natural reflectors. The couple was just so happy. And when I got these images, I was so excited because I knew that this was going to go on my website. I knew this was going to grow my brand. I ended up submitting this wedding. I ended up getting featured. And it was just crazy to see the progression of just a couple months earlier when I was second shooting and I had no idea, to my first wedding on my own, to now what my work looks like today. So if we're gonna compare this to what my work looks like today, this is more of my current style. The colors, the skin tones, the poses, the focal lengths, this is definitely more consistent with what my couples now hire me for and the work that I'm now known for. And I don't know, guys, I think it's a really weird experience to look back at your photographs, see where you've been, see those cringeworthy moments, see where, your posing could have used some help. And I definitely did not have as much awareness of what was happening with my composition, what was happening in the background of my images, if there were distracting elements going on, or if, my couples even looked comfortable. But this is my before and after. I want to know from you guys if you were surprised or what your first reactions were to seeing some of my first wedding images. Give it to me straight. Tell me what you thought in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.